All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another mystical, magical, mysterious live image critiques. I am your host and presenter and just overall good looking dude, Sean Lara. I am joined today by, I would want to say, actually, I think you're my first international guest, Ben. I want to introduce you all to
Really?
Ben Connolly. Say hi, Ben.
Hey guys, how are we all today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Although I don't know if you've been following my Facebook a little bit, but there's this like crazy fire happening right now, like 20 miles from my house, and like I'm seeing all these posts on Facebook of all my friends like evacuating and everything. I'm okay, but I'm feeling for my friends, and it's a little scary right now over here.
Wow, I didn't actually see that at all. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, crazy fires up here in northern Colorado. So if anyone from my homeland is watching right now, I hope you guys are all being safe. But yeah, Ben, I'm super stoked to have you here. For those who don't know Ben, he is an absolutely incredible photographer from Australia, and I'm going to let him introduce himself here in a second. But I actually only recently became friends with you, Ben. You know, admittedly, we were talking a little bit about this before we went live. I actually had no idea who you are, and then we started kind of hanging out at WPPI. Amber Henry introduced you to me this past year, and you know, you were a lot of fun to hang out with, and I'm like, who is this just obnoxious, annoying, loud spoken dude? I need to know him right now. And yeah, I feel like we were like almost, you know, instant connection between the two of us. We were no homo, but that's fine. But you know, just putting that's fine. But just, you know, nice friendship between us. And I was like, okay, like this guy's awesome. I got to check out his work. And I immediately fell in love with it. Your stuff is absolutely incredible, Ben. And I want everyone who hasn't had the opportunity to know who you are to check out your portfolio, because Ben, you really are an absolutely incredible environmental portrait photographer, and I would love for you just to kind of introduce yourself to the world and to just let everyone know a little bit about who you are, maybe what some of your inspirations are, and anything that you can tell us just to paint a picture of Ben Connolly.
Wow. Thank you, man. I'm humbled to be here, and it's really good. It was really good to meet you. I've been a wedding photographer over here in Australia for about 20 years now. And I'm sure that probably a lot of you will have no idea who the hell I am, and that's totally okay. Over here in Australia, we kind of fly under the radar a fair bit. So yeah, look, I've been photographing weddings for about 20 years, and I'm someone who likes to go to weddings and kind of step out of the box a little bit whenever I can, and try and challenge myself to pull out something a bit unique and a bit sort of different. And it's kind of taken me down the road of using flash and that sort of stuff. And you know, for probably the first 15 years or so of my career, I was kind of a bit scared of flash and didn't really use it and that sort of thing. But in the last 5 years, it's become sort of something that I rely on quite a lot, and in doing so, I've been able to really stretch me and just pull out something different and unique from weddings and that sort of stuff. So I mainly shoot weddings because I kind of know what I'm good at, and I want to stick to that. So, but yeah, look, that's a bit about me. I'm looking a bit old in this live stream. I don't look quite as cute as what Sean does.
No, you look beautiful. You look beautiful.
Yeah,
And I'm actually
yeah,
showing
yeah.
off some of your photos right now to our audience, so we can't see you at the
Oh,
moment.
really?
Yes.
Okay. I hope they're all good ones.
They're
Um,
all they're okay.
yeah, they're okay. They're average. They're average. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a challenge where I am here in Australia, because I live in a place called Dicky Beach. Shut up, Sean. Don't even say it. And here where I am, there's nothing really that we can use architecturally so much, because it's just a kind of a small, well, not a small, but an average sized kind of coastal town, and I live a street away from the beach, and here there's really only beach and mountains that we've got to work with. So I really miss a lot of that architectural stuff that you see coming out of, you know, the US and Asia and that sort of stuff. So not being able to do that, not being able to find that stuff has made me look a bit deeper into what I can possibly create here in with what I've got. And after COVID, like good old COVID ruined every travel plan for every human being on the planet for God knows how long. So any international weddings that I had were gone. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge to find something different to do in the locations that you work at every day. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. And you mentioned that Flash is, it was something that you kind of worked your way into. It wasn't something you've always done. And I find that really interesting because, you are so proficient at your use of off-camera light, and you have such a good understanding of it. And, looking through your portfolio just now, I can see that you have a very nice marriage between your use of off-camera flash and natural light. And I think it's safe to say that you've really been able to distinguish, good light when you see it, regardless of whether it's something that you're creating or something that is already available to you. And I feel like that's a lot of the times kind of hard, at least with the people, especially that I educate and a mentor. There's so many people that, use flash just to use it, right? Where I'll look at it, I'm looking at their photo and I'm looking at a scene. I'm like thinking to myself, you could have achieved just as good of a photo, if not better, maybe even using natural light in the situation. So being able to distinguish when to use what, I think, is something that can actually take some time to learn. And you've been doing this for, you said, I think 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
One thing I've noticed is a lot of people do get overwhelmed when they try and use Flash. I did a 5-day workshop in the UK last year, and what I noticed, like on the first day, on our first shoot day, I sent everyone out and there was no flash allowed. Everyone had to use natural light and had to use their brain and really find something different with natural light. And after all the posing and the lighting that we did, everything, all of their images and the posing and stuff was really, really good. And then on the second day, when we said, right, you can go crazy with flash, because that was what they were all kind of wanting to do, I found that the flash kind of overpowered everything, and then the posing and the actual intricate use of that light kind of fell away a little bit. So, yeah, I'm a big advocate for working really hard to get it right and do it right, because there's nothing worse than coming home and thinking you've got this amazing shot,
Right.
you've got to do what I call a Photoshop glitter roll, because you can't polish a turd. You've just got to roll it in glitter. So, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for taking a gem and then polishing that in Photoshop and getting the most out of that, as opposed to trying to glitter roll a turd. So,
No, absolutely. And, that's something that I feel like every photographer needs to know going into what a photo shoot, whether it's a wedding, engagement session, family portrait shoot, journalism. You want to try to get the photo as best on camera as you can. That way,
yep.
if you are going to use Photoshop or Lightroom or any sort of manipulation tools, you should be capturing that frame with the intention that you already know what you're going to do in Photoshop, right? You don't want to approach a scene saying, oh, like, okay, this photo, I'll just shoot whatever, and then hopefully I can fix it in Photoshop, right? So that's kind of what separates, the pros from the amateurs, in my opinion, a little bit.
Yeah, I always try and shoot with the hindsight of Photoshop in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, before we jump into these image critiques, Ben, I want you to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about the education program that you have. So could you tell everyone a little bit about that and, what it's all about, what they can learn?
Yeah. So when I first started in the industry, I really needed help with lighting and posing and pretty much everything that goes with photography. And at that stage 20 years ago, there was only a few people offering it, and it was wildly expensive. And when I first started, obviously I just didn't have the money to be able to afford that kind of outlay to train myself. So subsequently, lots and lots of years and lots of mistakes later, I've finally gotten to a point where I am, and I decided in 2020, when we were all stuck at home, problem drinking and day drinking and stuff like that, that I wanted to create an online program or create something for people that were potentially just starting to get into the industry and wanted to turn their passion into a profit and that sort of stuff. And I wanted to create something that took someone from a complete beginner all the way through to starting and operating and running a thriving, successful business. And so over the last 4 years, I've created that, and I've created my online program, which is called The Unstoppable Photographer. It's a full online video program where basically it's designed to take someone from a complete standing stop all the way through to running a successful business. But with that said, all of the modules in between are completely relevant to, say, someone who's been in the industry for 5 years and really wants to level up their lighting, their posing, their composition, different types of exposures and competition editing and all of that sort of stuff. So and even the big thing about how to create and sell albums, because this year has been a bit of a challenge here in Australia because the economy and that sort of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, being able to upgrade and upsell my clients and sell them upgrades on albums has been really pivotal in maintaining, obviously, my business and lifestyle and that sort of stuff. So being able to sell your amazing work is something that really we all need to make as a priority. So 'cause there's so much education out there on being creative and how to do this with one flash, or how to do this with two flashes, or what we're thinking, or all of these classes and platforms and that sort of stuff that's out there. But the actual ability to know what to say and to sell your photos and to be able to upgrade and the psychology around that is so incredibly important in running a business.
Absolutely. I tell people, I've said this many times on these live videos, you could be the best photographer creatively in the world, but if you have no way to generate leads or reach, your potential clients, like it's not going to do you any good. And I think a big problem that we have as artists is that we are so dedicated to the craft and we're so passionate about creating art that, admittedly, sometimes we don't want to do the business side of things because we are artists because we don't like business. But if you don't have a solid foundation of marketing and advertising and business skills, you're not going to be able to put your artistic, mind to work. So it has to be a nice balance, and it's okay to ask for help or to invest in these programs like yours that will really help elevate, our craft and allow us to actually find clients. So, I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about that. And after this video, we are going to drop a little bit more information in my group about your program, as well as give everyone a 15% off discount as well.
Yep. And it's important to mention all the prices on my website is all Australian dollars. So when you see the prices, it's like $5 for you guys. It's like nothing.
So it's like it's monopoly money. It's just
monopoly money in the US. Yeah.
Right on. Well, hey, Ben, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to jump into this. Actually, Amber has a question. Have you won any awards lately?
Look, yeah, there's been a couple. Hang on, let me see. Everyone's going to think that I'm a complete dickhead now, but I should. Here you go.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a lot of awards. Holy crap.
So yes, Amber, thanks for putting me on the spot for that. So yeah, there's been a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't kidding when we said you were a good photographer. That's pretty awesome. I want a picture of all those at some point. but
dude, do you know what though? The thing with all of those awards and the thing with all of this stuff is that you're never going to be in the running to win those awards unless you put yourself in a position to be there. Right. And putting yourself in that position and being willing to take criticism. Believe me, man, I've submitted photos to awards where they've got 90 in the US and I got 75 in Australia. Like, It's
Yeah,
so incredibly subjective,
it
and
is.
is the same as this scenario here. The people that have sent their photos in for critique, my congratulations to you guys, because you're putting yourself out there, being vulnerable for someone that you potentially don't even know, to give you some feedback on your photos, and that's incredibly challenging, and it's very humbling for me, and it's something that takes a lot of courage. So for those people that have, thank you, and well done. I hope that you're going to learn and you're going to take away quite a lot from this.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. Well, I want to try to finish up not too late tonight, and I would love to keep talking to you about this because you have so much amazing input and value to add to everyone. But I want to get started with these image critiques because I know everyone is waiting patiently. So at the end of the critique, we're going to be giving away a free canvas from ProPrints. I'm going to randomly select someone. So
Ooh.
make sure you watch until the end because I'm going to be announcing it at the end. And if you don't watch it and you don't know that you won, I'm not going to reach out to you and let you know. That's one of the incentives of watching. So without further ado, we're going to start with our first image critique and our first image. And for those of you who are new, I am going to be monitoring the comments on the screen on my right. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comment section. Let's go. So here we go. This first image comes from photographer Holly, and Holly used a 24-inch softbox to the right of the client. She had her friend throw the flying dress in the air. This was captured at 35 millimeters. So, Ben, I'm going to let you kick this off and let everyone know your thoughts on this image.
Cool. So, because I'm like wildly unorganized, I've actually just had to scramble to bring this up on my screen because I thought it might have come up on the live stream, but that's all right. Cool. So, all right. I love this. This has taken a significant amount of ability to do with flash, obviously in broad daylight and that sort of stuff. So, congratulations on that. That's really cool. I like. Sorry, I'm just scouring through. If I look really
Oh, you're
weird,
fine.
I'm just looking. Yeah.
No, you're good.
So pose wise, I love the fact that you have bent the leg closest to the camera, because that's one of the big things that we kind of want to try and do. Potentially, one of the things that I would suggest is because you have bent the leg closest to the camera. Typically with women, you want to push the hip away from the camera. So when you bend the leg closer to the camera, you point the toe towards the camera, bend that knee over and push the hip back. Because by pushing the hip back, it gives the female form more shape. Because sometimes if they're standing equally weighted, everyone can look a bit rectangle if they're standing equally weighted. So what I would suggest to strengthen the pose is to absolutely push her hip away from the camera a little bit. So imagine the little teapot scenario. So you bend the leg closer to the camera and push the hip back. And what that's going to do is tilt the top half of her forward. So for women, when you push something away from that, or for anyone, you push something away from the camera, it looks smaller, and you push something towards it, it looks bigger. So if we were to push her hip back a little bit, that would just amplify her shape a little bit and give her more of an hourglass kind of shape.
Yeah. And if I can add to that, Ben, too,
Yeah.
one thing I'm seeing is that it almost looks like she only has one leg because of the angle, right? Which is a little awkward. So I would probably have her reposition her feet a little bit more so you can actually see both legs.
Yeah, look, and I'm a huge advocate of turn the body away from the light and the head back in.
Mm-hmm. I am too.
So if we're looking for where the light's coming from, from the flash sort of here, it looks like it's coming from the right hand side, sort of up and to the right. I think it looks like it's coming from. So what I would potentially do is turn her body away from that light and then turn her head back into the light. In that scenario, it might change the leg that's closest to the camera as well.
Yeah, and
So
another thing, yeah. Oh, sorry, continue.
So if that happens, then obviously we just bend the leg closer to the camera and push the hip away from the light. So, but yeah, definitely turning the body away from the light and the head back in is a game changer, and it's yeah, something that will really change the shape of the body a lot. The other thing I'm noticing is there's a little bit of sort of ghosting and stuff around the sort of around the trees and stuff here in the sky. So I'm curious as to whether the sky, there may have been some kind of sky replacement or something in there as well, just because there's that little bit of ghosting and stuff there, and that just obviously comes down to a Photoshop thing. So, but all in all, great shot. I love that your eye sort of goes straight to her face. If anything, maybe just sort of darken down the sand here in a little bit, just to bring your eye a little bit more towards the subject in the middle.
Agreed.
But overall, yeah, great shot. Well done.
Yeah, good job, Holly. And one other thing, just to add to that real quick, is you might want to consider having your light source on in towards the same direction of the sun. You know, you have your light source coming from camera right where your flash is positioned, and you have your sun a little bit more to the left of the frame, so it doesn't necessarily match super well. So that would be just one minor detail that I would recommend you do to make it a little bit more believable. And I would also personally probably shoot it at a slightly lower angle to make it look a little bit more dramatic, because you know from this angle you have a lot of this like negative space, right? And I think that was, you know, the intention that you were going for, but it does make your eye wander a little bit. So would probably change those two things besides the posing that we talked about, direction of your lighting and as well as the angle. So but yeah, no, thank you, Holly, for submitting that.
Great shot, Holly. Well done.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving on. This next photo comes from Randall Mena. Or Mena. I can never understand how to say his last name properly. Randall, one of these days you're going to have to tell me. But anyway, no information on this photo, just in pretty cool portrait here. So since you started last time, I think I will start this time. Let me just take a little bit of a look. Immediately, my kind of where my eye is going is right to where the top of her head meets that chandelier, and it's getting really busy in that part of the frame. So I would recommend that we change our angle just slightly to help kind of clean that area up a little bit. And one thing I'm noticing here, which I actually really like, is the position of the light. Kind of like what you were just saying in the last photo, is she's turning in towards the light, which is very flattering because you have that nice shadow, that nice very soft shadow on her left cheek. So it's not so you know the transition between the highlights and the shadows is very soft. It's very flattering. I would probably, one of the things I would probably do is I think I would bring down a little bit of the highlights kind of on the stone wall to her left and right, just a tad, so it brings a little bit more attention to her. But other than that, I'm really not too much I would change here, to be honest with you, but I'd like to see what your thoughts are, Ben.
Randall, awesome shot, man. So good. I bet you that she got this shot and she went, "Oh my God, I love it." So,
Oh yeah.
Man, fantastic. Like you've done really well with balancing exposures and that sort of stuff, and looking at the highlights on the dress and the veil and all that sort of stuff. It's all really good, man. You've done such a good job. Again, so I'm gonna be a little bit of a bitch, but the first thing that sticks out to me is that she's not exactly in the center. This is, whether it's my ADHD or what it is, but Randall, dude, if she was just a little bit to the left, like you see the two rectangle bits that are right beside her, and you can see that just because the veil is sort of flying on one side and it's not on the other, it gives the appearance of it not being in the center and therefore not symmetrical. And our brains are all weird, and our brains love symmetry. And when it sees something symmetrical, it's just like this that happens in our heads and stuff. So, man, if you like, and you've got a really symmetrical kind of room there as well, by the look of it. So, if you for like moving next time, if you see something like this and you're going for something in the middle, just make sure that she's like exactly in the middle, or your subject is exactly in the middle, because it just elevates that shot just to the next level when the symmetry and everything is right. So, shit, that was long-winded, wasn't it?
No, no, it's all good. That's some really good feedback. Randall has a really good, kind of style, and I should say a
Yeah.
good way of portraying these like elegant scenes like this, and it's something he's definitely very proficient at.
Yeah. And like I said, dude, I love this. Zooming in on the bride's face and shoulder and stuff like that, I can see sort of a couple of little posing issues that that will really elevate this to the next level. And again, it's the turning the body away from the light and the head back in, which you've kind of done here, which is good. But I'd still like to see a little bit more of the front of her than the back. Now, the
Okay.
reason I say that is because from her waist to her chin, it's really arm heavy. Now, if you were to push her hip away from the camera, what you're going to do is you're going to tip her top half over to the camera more. So by pushing the hip away from the camera, what that's going to do is it's going to drop this arm, it's going to drop this shoulder, and it's going to give you more room between her chin and her shoulder. Because looking at this, it looks like her arm goes all the way up and just turns into her head. Now, it's something that you can miss a lot of the time, and because the highlight on her shoulder is probably the brightest part, even more brighter than her forehead. What that's going to do is going to make her shoulder and that area the point where your eye goes. And if you look behind the window here, it's quite bright behind her as well, because I can see you've got a flash behind the subject. Now, whether that's pointed at her to backlight her, I can't really tell so much. But I can see there's a lot of light on that area. Now, when there's a lot of light on that area and you've got a bright subject, the subject can kind of disappear into the background. So what would make this stronger is if you were to darken that background area down so that she stood out more, and then slightly rotate her a little bit more, so that you can see a bit more of the flowers and less of the arm. And when you
Gotcha.
rotate her more, you're going to push her hip away from the camera, and her arm, you're going to use the veil here to shield a little bit of her arm, because as blokes, we're always concerned about our balding patch and our belly and that's some double
Right.
chins and stuff. Ladies, most of the time, they're worried about hips, they're worried about arms, and sometimes chins and stuff like that. So in every photo that you take, I want you to, I was taught this by Jerry Gionis, photograph through the eyes of a loved one. So photograph her in a way that her husband would want to see her. And
Okay.
when you do that, you'll always make her look as amazing, and you'll fight to make her look as amazing as you possibly can. As a photographer, we always want to photograph our subjects so that they love how they look in every photo. And if you're not doing that, and if you're not trying to amplify strengths and hide weaknesses in every photo for every client, then you're doing them a disservice. So
Gotcha.
with this, push the hip away, rotate her more, hide a bit of that arm with the veil. That will then give you more room between her chin and her shoulder. Darken down the background a little bit and just shuffle her a little bit to the left, man. Just put her in the middle. But dude, you've done such a good job with this shot. I can see it's a pretty dark kind of scenario as well. Good work, man. Well done.
Yes, absolutely. Randall, as always, thank you for submitting some really excellent content for us to critique. We're going to go
Yeah.
ahead and move on. So this next photo comes from Becky McNerdy. This was a long exposure with a single light bar and high-speed sync flash on the brides. Every 2 seconds, she changed the color of the bar as she waved it around. So I have a couple comments, but I'll let you start since I started last time, and I'm sure you're seeing some of the same things I am. But yeah, take it away, Ben. Let me know what's your, I guess, your first impression of this image when you see it.
Becky, awesome job. Like getting a couple sharp in a situation like this is really tough. And you've obviously got them to stay quite still, and you've used the flash to freeze motion and stuff after that exposure. So awesome job. Like this is kind of the light painting and stuff that I was and still am kind of right into, and that sort of stuff. And I know it's incredibly hard to get a sharp shot unless you're using flash with this sort of stuff. So, but fantastic on the work on the colors and everything on behind. I've got a couple little posing things, and I've got a couple little background things which I want to share with you. Firstly, let's start with the background. When it comes to light painting, you want a fairly dark background with no distractions in the background, because what that does is it then highlights the color and it highlights what you showcased behind your subject. So for me, like the lights and stuff here in the background, and the and just the red part over here on the right, and the sign looks like a sign over there on the left. They're just a little bit distracting in the background, and what it does is it takes away from your awesome work with the light bar. And I'll be honest, that's a pattern I haven't seen before. So send me a DM and tell me that pattern, because it's pretty cool. So that I think that takes care of the background. So Becky, just make sure your background is nice and dark and nice and clean, so that you're highlighting against shadow, basically. The next thing is just with regard to the pose for these two girls. Now, when I pose a couple, whether it's girl and girl, girl and guy, guy and guy, I'll normally never ever pose them full side on to me, because I want to see a little bit more of them, and particularly like when you turn a couple 45 degrees, you see a bit more of them, and you're not losing too much of what you're doing in the background in this instance. So what I would do in this instance is I would get those two girls and say, hey girls, I want you to rotate yourselves, turn yourselves 45 degrees towards me. So you're opening your shoulder, you're opening your body up to the camera, so that the shoulder furthest away from the camera is that the two shoulders furthest away from the camera are almost touching and close together, and the two shoulders closest to the camera are further away. So instead of doing this, which is full side on, you're doing that, so that you're actually seeing more of both parties. That way, with the girls, you see more of the chest. You can push the hip back. You can change, because you don't want a female to be standing equally weighted. So when they are 45, naturally they're going to have 1 foot closer or one leg closer to the camera than the other. So you bend that leg and you push their hip back, which then tilts the top half over, which gives you again more room between chin and shoulders and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So when they turn, you turn the bodies, but you say to them, girls, turn your heads back towards each other, and then bring your foreheads together that way. And it's just a nicer, kind of more warm sort of aesthetic as well.
Right. And I completely agree, Ben. Oh, sorry. You weren't done. Continue.
Sorry. What that is also going to do, Becky, is for that lovely girl on the right-hand side, it's going to reduce the size of her arm a little bit. Now, I'm a huge advocate of a veil. So if a bride says to me, hey, this is our wedding, blah, 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 and she says, I'm not wearing a veil, I say to her, you really need a veil. Please get yourself a veil. It doesn't need to be a long, big, crazy one. It's just something that like just touches the floor, because it gives us so many more options to work with. And then I say to her, if you have any concerns around your arms or anything like that, or your dress is a little bit short for you or something like that, a veil is going to allow us to make you feel more comfortable, because you're not going to be too worried about your arms, because we can wrap it around you a little bit. We can hide a lot of things, and it just gives us a lot more ability. So
Right. It's a type of body blocking, so to speak.
yeah, like as you can see behind me. So veil. But if they don't have a veil, then we need to switch our mindset to, okay, how is shoot through the lens of her partner. I want to make her look amazing, and I want her to love how she looks in the photo. And I know that she'll probably see her arm in that photo and go, oh, I'm not 100% on that, despite how amazing the photo looks. So
Yeah.
if you rotate the body, that'll reduce the size of the arm a little bit. And instead of their hands being on each other's waist like that, when you rotate the body, you can just get them to hold hands at the front. So it's not a straight arm, it's a slightly bent arm. And if they just hold hands, don't interlock fingers either when you're holding hands, because that looks kind of weird. What you want is just sort of one hand hanging onto a couple of fingers, and just very soft and gently.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I agree with everything you said, Ben. And just to add two more things, I'll start with the pose since we're talking about that. One thing you can do, one thing I always try to avoid, and I encourage others to avoid, is you want to try to reduce the amount of like the neck and the back of like the upper part of the shoulder as possible, right? Because it's not as flattering to see, a lot of that neck right there, a lot of that shoulder. So even something, even something that you can do besides actually physically turning them is sometimes I'll just have the couple bring their chin a little bit more towards the camera. So I'm seeing more of their face, right? And as opposed to just that whole broad side of the neck right there, because that's not the most flattering portion. So even just telling them, hey guys, like, you can hold your position, but just bring your chins a little bit more towards the camera. That little tiny change is gonna make it so much more flattering of a pose. Yeah, and then the other thing too is the lighting on the couple itself. I do think it's a little flat, right? It's a little flat. It's a little hot. I would recommend, if you had the ability to do so, or you have the ability to do so next time, is to actually I'd probably recommend bringing that flash a little bit higher almost, and have it almost come down on like a spotlight essentially, because what's happening is you're getting a lot of that flat light on the bride on the right, and the bride on the left, we're losing a little bit or I should say a lot of bit of detail in her face. So having just that more even lighting on the two of them, I think is going to make for a much stronger image.
And just one last little thing, Becky, with the girl on the left, if you were to swish the hair back out of her face a little bit, you're going to see a lot more of her face. So just bear that in mind as well. Obviously, you can see the girl on the right, but with this girl on the left, if you just pull that hair back a bit, you see a little bit more of her face. So bear that in mind next time. But awesome job, and so good to jump out and do something different and something cool, and you pulled it off. So well done.
Yeah, what a killer photo, Becky. Thank you so much for submitting. Okay, coming up next, this photo comes from John Hawking. Looks like he didn't provide any information, but it looks like it was a senior. It's a senior photo, and I just want to throw out there what a cool looking guitar. I've never seen a guitar like that. So that's definitely very unique. The thing I really like about this photo right off the bat is he's looking off camera, but he's looking into the frame, right? So it's helping complete the image. So from a composition standpoint, it is excellent. The lighting is excellent. I'm just kind of taking a look at this image and I'm digesting it a little bit, because there's so much that's well balanced. I'm kind of struggling a little bit quite frankly, I'm struggling a little bit how to offer you, some constructive criticism, John, just because it's a good photo. It really is. It's not like overly the top creative or anything by that. Uh, maybe maybe I would recommend lighting a slightly more from camera left, because we're lighting the broad side of his face a little bit. So the right side of his face is in shadow, and I think I would prefer to actually see the right side of his face have a little bit more light than the left side. But that's kind of nitpicking, honestly. It's a really effective photo. And if you have anything to say, Ben, that I'm missing, go for it.
I'm just, dude, I'm just laughing at you trying to find something to say.
I know it's hard because it's a good photo, and it's not. I really honestly don't have much to say about it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I agree. John, dude, this photo is sensational, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that kid, like, I didn't realize he was a senior, like, far out.
I'm assuming he is. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. So this is awesome, man, and that kid is going to get that photo, and he's just like, that's a once in a lifetime photo that you've given to someone, and that's that's the gift that as photographers that we have the ability to give to people. And man, you've nailed it. It's so good.
It is. It is. It doesn't suck,
The
John. Doesn't suck.
Yeah, like the sharpness of him balanced against the sharpness of the ground here in front, and then as it gradually blurs off into the background, like, that's sensational. Like the colors at the back, compared to the colors of him at the front, amazing. Like the light has fallen off from the top to the bottom really, really well, so it doesn't look like it's overlit or anything like that. Man, the one thing that kind of stuck out to me when I saw this is contradictory to what Sean said, basically. So here's the subjective nature of what we do. His eye line, I find that eye line a little bit distracting, and I find the eye line kind of subdues him a little bit, if that makes sense. So what I've kind of discovered over the years is there's kind of three different eye lines that essentially work the best in photography. And one eye line is directly to the camera, so camera aware. The second eye line is down the length of the body, so down the length of the body, left or right. And the third one is directly away from the camera, or directly away from, camera position, but more than 45 degrees. Because the reason I say that, what I've found over the years is that when a subject is not looking properly away from the camera more than 45 degrees and not looking at the camera, it's within this kind of little weird kind of gray zone. And it almost feels like that they're not, like they've almost forgotten what's happening, is kind of the feeling that I sort of get from it. So I agree with Sean in the fact that if you were to sidelight him a little bit more, maybe a little bit more to the left, but by the look of where that light's coming from, I think you're probably at a point to the left that you don't really want to go much further. In that scenario, if you don't want to move flash and go more left, or you can't go more left, all I would do, man, is just turn his head a little bit more towards that light. So, hang on, let me look at this. So I'm just going to zoom in because I'm thinking, no, I've got that wrong. So your lighting appears to be coming from the top right.
Right. That's what it looks like to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, this is how caught up we can all get in photos. So with lighting from the top right, what you're doing is you're highlighting the broad side of his face.
Exactly.
Now This dude's lucky because he's got quite a chiseled jawline and he looks nothing like me. For God's sake, look at this chunk. So he's got a really cool chiseled jawline, which in this regard, with broad lighting him from that side, you can get away with. But if that was someone who wasn't as chiseled as he is, what that's going to do is make them look bigger.
Exactly.
So, man, what I would suggest is move your flash from the right over to the left and then turn his chin towards the left. Keep his body position the same, like guitar, everything all the same. Just move your flash and turn his head to the left. Because what you're going to do then is you're going to create short lighting on his face, which is going to highlight the side of the face furthest away from the camera, leaving the other side that you see more of in shadow, which is going to chisel his face. And it's just a more flattering look. But dude, like, love everything here. The only thing I would do is just change that light and move and turn his chin. But when you do turn his chin, don't turn his chin all the way so it's full profile. You don't want his nose to break the line. If everyone can see me, I'm not sure, but we'll make it big. Here, yeah, thanks for that. Wow. I apologize everyone for this. But if you see my nose, it doesn't break the line of my cheek here. And therefore my nose doesn't look big. And I don't have a big nose, but if you go further, then you go full profile and the nose breaks the line of the cheek. And what that can do is amplify the nose. So with this guy, turn his face towards the light. So again, body away from the light, head back in. But just make sure his nose doesn't break the line of his cheek. And dude, killer photo. So good. Well done.
Yeah, it's basically what I said, just way more eloquently than I put it.
Can I demonstrate? I want to demonstrate something real quick.
Sure.
So can everyone see me? So this is I'm just gonna rip this in half. This is something that was shown to me quite a few years ago, and when I saw it, I went, "Oh my God!" Like that just blew my mind. When I talk about turning the body away from the light and the head back in, so in my little office here, I've got light coming from this side, okay, and then if I've got this piece of paper represents a bride. So if we stand her like that, equally weighted, facing the light, everything is really bright. If, on the other hand, I turn her body away from the light and then turn her head back in, whoops, hopefully she doesn't rip. But what that creates is we're going from a rectangle to an hourglass. So I'm turning her body, and what that is doing is it's taking her from a rectangle and turning her into an hourglass. So it obviously works better with a bigger piece of paper or something fabric, but it's you've got rectangle, body away from the light, head back in, and then all of a sudden you've got a beautiful hourglass and you haven't really done anything. Now, yes, that is for the girls. Girls want hourglass, but it still works awesome for guys as well, because if a guy's wearing a white shirt and he's turned towards the light, then your eye is going to go to the brightest part of that frame, which is his white shirt, because it's brighter than his skin tone. It's the same with a girl wearing a white dress.
Gotcha. That is some phenomenal advice. I hope you all just took notes on that, because that is a very eloquent and way to describe that in a very easy way to digest it. So thank you for that. That was awesome. And thank you, John, for submitting that photo. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next submission. This comes from Frank Sorger. Let's see. No info on how he captured this, but looks like he's got one light, maybe from camera right, using a softbox or something. How do you feel about this perspective that this was captured? Do you like the crop? Do you think maybe it's too tight? Do you think it's not tight enough? What do you think of the hand placement? What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
I'm Frank. Awesome job in capturing what you've done. Like her eyes are absolutely killer, and they just burn straight through your soul. Which is, if that's what you were trying to achieve, then man, awesome job. You've done that really well. Um, there's a couple of things that I think would strengthen this a little bit. And the first one is just the post production work on it. Like it's really really sharp, and it's potentially like, especially in the hair and the eyelashes and in her eyes, they're super duper sharp. So what I would suggest is just dropping down the sharpness pretty significantly on the hair, and also on her eyelashes, and potentially just a little bit less sharpness on her actual eyeballs itself. Because what that sharpness is doing all the way around is it's creating highlights in the hair and in the other bits and pieces that kind of take you away from her gaze and take you away, I think, from what you were trying to achieve. So just watch the post production, dude. Like, just tone down that sharpening a little bit, because you've got a really beautiful subject here, and you've done quite well in lighting her and highlighting her eyes and photographing her and stuff. But the sharpness is kind of taking away from that beauty. It's giving an element of brutalness a little bit, to a degree, for want of a better word. In terms of the crop, I'd probably like to see a little bit more of the top and the bottom of her. I always like to see just the start of the hairline, because when you don't see the start of the hairline, you can feel like the forehead can go on forever when it's out of the frame. So I would just crop it up a little bit just to see the actual start of her hairline. And I'll also crop it down a little bit, just so that you're not cropping right through the actual hand, because
Exactly.
you're cropping sort of here. Hang on, you're cropping here. And what we want to do is kind of crop, if you're going to crop at the wrist. So you want to crop at or just below the joint. So that way you'd see a little bit more of the wrists, and they're going to come to a point, kind of like that. But because you've got the hands like this, I'd probably suggest something like that, where you're resting the chin on one hand and just placing it very gently, and then the other one is coming here. The two hands like this, whether if she's leaning, it feels a little bit awkward. But there's no rules when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, there's posing rules out there, but they're kind of, in some cases, made to be broken. So if it looks good, dude, do it. But with that said, there's ways that we can refine it and make it a little bit better. So I guess in summary, just watch your sharpening a little bit. This corner up here on the right-hand side, what I would do is probably just extend the hair over as well, so that you can't see that empty piece of corner, because that sort of sticks out for me a little bit. And in regard to skin softening, yep, you've done a really good job in skin softening. We can still see sort of pores and detail. I'd maybe just back that back just a little bit. And there's also a kind of a little dimple up here that, if this is kind of going down a rabbit hole of, do we get rid of it, do we don't, because is it them, is it not? For her, it'd be a question I ask: do you want that in? Do you want that out? And you may have done that, which is why it's there. For me, I probably would have just taken away that little lump and bump, because it just sort of sticks out a little bit among the softness of everything else. So beautiful soft skin, just really sort of harsh sharpening and stuff around the hair and eyelashes and stuff. So just tone that down just a little bit, and maybe just tone down the whites of the eyes just a little bit as well. But man, great shot, and I'm sure she loves it, and the eyes are a killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the risk of sounding too repetitive, this is, in my opinion, this is one of those, one of the framing where it's kind of in that in-between space between cropped and too tight, or not cropped or not cropped out far enough, right? Because
Yeah.
you do, like you touched on, you do lose a little bit of what's happening with her hands. And I would either want to see more of what her hands are doing, because hands, like I've said so many times, help tell the story. They help convey emotion. So I'd like to see that, or complete opposite, zoom in even further, because the star of the show here, as we discussed, are her eyes, right? She's got these very, piercing, colorful, beautiful eyes. And I almost would even do like a 16:9 crop on this, like a very panoramic style crop where you're just kind of seeing her eyes. That could be something really unique here. So I would definitely go one way or the other with the crop. You're kind of in this in between zone, like I mentioned, and I'd probably, as you mentioned, would change the hands. That was kind of the first thing I noticed that I just thought was a little weird. I mean, this isn't really a natural hand position, so I would like to see something done a little bit different with that. But we won't spend too much more time repeating the same exact things that you already talked about, so we'll go ahead and move on. But Frank, man, what a killer image. Seriously, this is a really cool photo to critique, and it looks like it was a really fun photo shoot as well. So super appreciate you submitting this.
Yeah. Good job, Frank.
Yeah. Okay, going on to our next photo. This comes from photographer Mark Creary, and Mark, he shot this with a Nikon Z8 with a 24-70. Looks like he was dragging the shutter a little bit here, and he was using direct flash with a Magmod Magsphere. So I want to start by saying I actually like this image, and I say it in that context, not because I don't think that Mark is capable of producing a good image, but usually because I'm not a huge fan of direct flash photos, and this is kind of going for that, that trendy paparazzi flat light look Hollywood style image that we're seeing so much right now in just not necessarily the media, but just on Instagram and kind of all over social media. So I do like it. I love that the flash really gives these bubbles some color to them, because that might actually be a little bit, or I don't want to say it wouldn't be possible, but you would definitely get a different effect if you were to capture this using off-camera flash. So kudos to you, Mark, for in the moment deciding to do that. The thing I'm struggling with here a little bit, though, is actually just the composition of the image. The couple is very center weighted. It's kind of going against everything the rule of thirds stands for, so to speak. So I would encourage you to either crop it maybe a little bit differently, or just frame it slightly differently, so your eyes just kind of not wandering all over the place here. What would you have done to improve the framing of this, Ben? Or do you like it how it is?
So, Mark, dude, I recognize this situation because I've been in this situation before. It appears that you're outside at a point where they're walking down the stairs, there's bubbles happening, you're walking down backwards, you've got a flash, it's probably all happening really quickly, and there's just so much shit going on, and you need to get the shot, and you did it. As wedding photographers, we don't always have the ability to be able to set stuff up and plan for events and plan for what's going on. And I recognize that this is one of those shots that you've had no real input in kind of making happen. It's they're walking down the stairs. He's just done what he's done with his hand. They're both looking down. Like you've had no real input so much into creating something that was out of the box or special. What you've done is you've caught something special in the moment when it's happening. And as a wedding photographer, that's in a lot of occasions, that's all you can do. So awesome job for doing that. Now, in terms of potentially making it a little bit stronger, I I agree with Sean with regard to direct flash. Direct flash just does my head in, and I don't know why all of these big magazines thinks it's amazing, because it's not. Um, Mate, what I would suggest to you, if you obviously have the ability to be able to create something like this and shoot something like this, so I'm going to push you to step a little bit further and go off camera flash with this. Now, I recognize that you're walking down the stairs. I recognize there's a whole lot of shit going on. But what I would suggest is, with off-camera flash, you get yourself a small monopod or something like that, and you put your flash on that monopod, and then you have camera in one hand and you have arm out with monopod and the flash above them at about 45, pointed down at them about 45, and try and go like that and walk backwards like that, as opposed to flash on top going boof.
Yeah, I've been doing
It's
a lot
pretty,
of that this year actually for Grand Exits, but with the mag, I don't have it actually with me, but with the mag bounce, I found that to be really, really helpful.
yeah. See, I'm not. Magmod is massive over there in the US, but here in Australia, where we seem to be forgotten by every amazing photo company, um, apart from Funny, Andrew's cool. So I don't have any Magmod stuff over here, and it's not really readily available so much. So Magmod, if you're listening, reach out. But I use Profoto, and I've got a couple of small. I've got a Profoto Click Octa softbox, which is quite big. I think it's 24 inches or something like that. But then I've just went on eBay and just got a little tiny sort of fabric softbox, and it's literally like 12 inches, and that just velcros onto my flash, and then I can hold that up and use that. So, Mark, I absolutely recognize it's one of those situations where you've just had to capture it, and awesome job for doing that. If you want to make it stronger, then take your camera off. Take your flash off, cameraman, and try that method of holding it above and shooting with your camera. And that works really well in dancing situations and reception situations and sparkler exits and all that sort of stuff. So, man, give that a shot. Let me know how you go.
Definitely. Yeah. And I just pulled up a behind the scenes photo, by the way, for everyone to check out, just to see what the bubbles looked like and where they were coming from. So if you're watching live, you can see that right now. But Mark, go ahead or keep submitting, because I always love seeing your photos. Thank you so much for sharing that one with all of us. We're going to go ahead and move on. We're running a little behind, so I'm going to speed this up a bit. We got this next photo from Carlos Morales, and Carlos, he's one of my students from ClickCon last year. He was creating new promotional photos for a solo guitar artist, another guitarist in Kansas. Roadies and cowboys are big here, so we went with the cowboy hats and boots. I used 3 different color shirts, 3 different color guitars, and 2 different backdrops. I am a musician, so I took advantage of the day off and used the rehearsal hall to take photos, as you can see in the behind the scenes photo, which I'll share in a bit. He tried different combinations, different poses while playing his guitar, cleaning them, etc. This photo is one of his favorites, and he was striving for the iconic Stanley Kubrick look. I have no idea what that means, because I will never be caught dead listening to country. So if that means something to you, country musicians or listeners, please let me know. Any advice is always welcome. Okay.
So, Carlos, awesome shot, man. It's sharp, it's detailed, it's you've got him. His eyes are piercing the camera. Love the concept of it and love the execution of it. There's a couple of little things that would make it stronger, man. And for me, one of those is definitely color temperature. Now, yep. I know that color temp is used to convey a message, and if you were trying to convey a specific message of sort of, moody and cold and sort of dark, then well done. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe that was not sort of the message. We can still go with something cool, and you can still, as in personality cool, and you can still go with something cool, but still using a warmer color temperature. So the way that I would potentially do that is I would warm this color temperature up to make his skin back to a normal color, because
Right.
he looks a little bit like a vampire. So bringing his skin back to a natural color is going to change the whole dynamic and the whole feel of how the photo looks. So if you're still going for that cool look, what I would suggest is, instead of his hand being up here, I would bring it down just to not the front of the hat, but across to opposite the guitar side. So that's looking at it the left hand or the right hand side, his right hand side,
You
and
beat me
just
to it. I was
bring.
going to say the same thing. Exact same
Because
thing.
I'm looking at me in the screen, and I'm different to the screen, and then the screen's different to this, and it's fucking messing with my head. Anyway, so if I mirror the photo, he's got his hang on, how does it work? He's got his hand up there on this hat. If we bring it down to here, and then you've got light from the guitar side coming across. So what I would do is, again, you've got his body slightly turned away from the light or directly facing you, which is cool. But now I would turn his head back towards the light just a little bit, so that you can still turn his head towards the light, get a short side of the face with his eyes still looking at you. And then if you tilt his head a little bit more, what you're going to do is you can get him to pull the hat down just a touch to cover one eye. And in that covering one eye and the head slightly towards the light, it's going to give you that cool, that really sort of cool masculine sort of vibe. But you're going to be hiding stuff as well, because coolness and like the attitude of a photo isn't always in what we show, and it's not always in the light either. The real beauty in a photo is sometimes what's not shown and what's in shadow. So in this case, the shadow is just as important as the light. So if you tilt that hat down a little bit, cover one eye, there's a bit of mystery. You turn his face towards the light a little bit, but still the eye is looking towards you. It's cool, and there's a little bit of mystery there, and the color temperature is good, and it's just a stronger photo.
So I would agree with everything you said. However, however, in this particular situation, I would almost prefer to see both of his eyes. And the reason I say that is because, I don't know if you noticed, he's got two different colored eyes.
Yes.
And I think conveying and showing those two different colors is something that is a little bit unique and something you don't see every day. So I can understand the photographer's intent to want to see both eyes.
Right.
But normally, I mean, yeah, you're spot on, absolutely, because he does create that mystery a little bit, you know?
So, and you can still show both eyes, Carlos. All you need to do is turn his head towards the light a little bit, and then just bring the hand just across to the side a little bit more.
Yep. Awesome.
And you still see there's two shots for you, Carlos. There's, one shot. What's going to go with this in the album on the next spread?
Exactly. Well, yeah. I have honestly nothing to add. Everything you said is almost everything you said is what I would have said. So I won't, beat a dead horse. So kudos to you, Carlos. Thank you so much for submitting that. We'll go ahead and move on to our next image. This next one comes from a regular contributor, Radon Burton, and she captured this with a Canon. Boo. And a Geekoto. Yay.
Behave
on
yourself.
A cheetah stand. On a cheetah stand. Yay. Camera right.
Cheetah stand.
We like cheetah stands.
I can't get them in Australia. Like I've got to wait to go back to the US to see Dave to get more.
Oh, man.
They can't get it in Australia. You guys are so lucky over there.
You guys don't get anything there. It's annoying.
I know. It's horrible. I love this shot. It's clean and it's sharp. It's kind of it's got everything. It's just a really nice kind of well balanced sort of shot. Who was the person who took this?
Radon.
Radon. awesome shot. Like you've done such a great job in capturing the essence of this girl and the interaction with the dog and stuff. It's really cool. The only thing that I think could make this a little bit stronger is just a little bit darker in the background. I know it's sunset, or it might be sunrise, depending on where you are in the world. I would just darken that back just a little bit, and maybe just brighten her
Yep.
just a little bit, just because her face kind of, you can see her face, but it hides a little bit in under her hat and her hair and that sort of stuff. And I'd love to see just a little bit more brightness on the skin, just to differentiate her from the horse in the background and her clothing. But fantastic shot. Like I really like that. It's done so well. It's balanced, it's sharp, and it's soft in the right places, and just background and just a little bit light and a little bit more skin tone on her. Fantastic.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. I wasn't gonna say reduce the highlights in the background, although it would benefit from it. I was gonna recommend just to bring up the exposure on her, maybe add a little bit, like another stop of light onto her. The other thing I'm gonna recommend as well is I would actually recommend getting rid of that catch light in her sunglasses from the flash, because I find it to be a little distracting, and when I'm seeing that catch light, I would almost expect that she's illuminated a little bit better, and I think you lose a lot of the impact of the image with seeing that catch light. The other thing too is you're definitely more versed in this than I am, Ben, but I'm not super stoked on her pose. She's kind of doing this weird thing where she's like clutching her chest and then clutching the top of her hat. It almost looks like, she's doing one of those games where try to rub your belly and rub your head at the same time, like the pose isn't really making much sense to me. So I would probably do something a little bit differently. Like in the last photo, to echo what you said in the last photo, have her bring her hand down, maybe on the brim of her head, maybe have her hand on the reins a little bit lower, so she looks like she's engaging with the horse a little bit more. And then I would even maybe have her actually turn her chin slightly off camera somewhere, so it looks like we're catching her more in the moment, like organically or candidly, as opposed to this kind of awkward, I'm not really sure what she's doing. I just think the pose isn't very successful here, and that's just my personal opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, Radon, but I'm not loving it. Not like I love your other photos, because she's an excellent photographer.
So, Sean, you're not a country hick, are you?
I am aware of the lifestyle, but no, I am not a country hick. No.
All right, I'm gonna point something out to you, and
Okay.
Radon,
Teach
if
me.
I'm right, which if I think I am, Radon, let me know. So, what she's sitting on. You guys, I don't know how many. She's sitting on 400 kilos. I don't know pounds. She's sitting on 400 kilos of animal with a brain of its own. And what it looks like is that dog has just come up to say hello, and that horse has gone, "What you doing, Willis?" And the horse has probably in the moment moved its head down to look at what this small furry animal is by its feet. And in that moment, she's probably pulled on the reins to regain control, or to make sure that the horse is under control. So I think that in the moment, she's actually in control of the horse in that moment, which is why her hand is there.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. And I'm not saying that's not what she's doing. I'm just saying, I think with looking at the perspective of capturing a portrait, I don't know if I would have selected that frame.
Yep. And look, and I agree. If the hand was down and she was looking that way, looking off to image right, where the flash is, perfect.
Yeah,
absolutely perfect.
And Radon did just confirm in the comments that this was not a pose; it was natural in the moment. So, so we're both right.
And the horse is focused on the dog. photographer's focused on the subject, and the subject is trying to manage everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact about me, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone by saying this, but I am not a horse person. Not a fan of horses. I think they're fun to look at and fun to photograph, but nope, you're not going to find me on a horse. Not my cup of tea or anything like that. But that's besides
Redon,
here or there.
Redon, I feel you. I feel you. So,
Yeah.
amazing shot, and
It is a great shot. I'm just being hard on Radon because she is such an amazing photographer, and I know she can take. I know she could take it. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from photographer Scott Tibbles, and the one he submitted is potato quality, so I'm going to bring up a slightly larger image that he gave to me like 10 minutes ago. So here we go. This is a better photo. I already see something right away, and I can't wait to grill him on it. But let me actually, I have two big problems with this photo. First of all, Scott, awesome shot. I love the color tones. I love the scene, the sky, the angle. It's awesome. Like we talked about with other photos earlier, couples gonna look at this photo and be like, nice. You know, this is an image that I could absolutely see being in a photo album. I'm gonna start with something that's a super easy fix, something you probably overlooked, and not a big deal, and it's very simple. So left side of the frame, you're seeing, I don't know if you're seeing it as well, Ben, there's like this seam. Now, I don't know if that's where, like the seam, S-E-A-M. And I don't know if that's where a light stand was. I don't know if this is a composited image where you overlay two frames on top of each other, but I'm seeing this long line. Looks like a seam. Yep. And that just needs to be addressed and touched up. Now, the other issue I'm seeing with this photo is exactly what we were talking about towards the beginning of the of our critiques with the photo of the two brides, and that is we are seeing too much of this bride's neck and a little bit too much of her back right there. So what I would encourage you to do is to do one of two things. One, either position yourself a little bit more to the right so we see more of her face, or two, even more simple, have her bring her elbow back a little bit. That way you're going to see more of her chest. You're going to see more of the front of her. It's going to bring her shoulder back. And then I'm also going to, I would ask you to bring her chin towards the camera a little bit so we see more of her face. Because right here, we're just seeing the big old side of her head, not really seeing her expression that much. And it's very important to see the expression from both the couples. But other than that, very well balanced on your lighting, on your angle. I love the pose. That would be my main critique. Ben, what do you want to add to that?
All right. Scott, awesome job, man. You
also be hard on Scott. He's a dick, so be really hard on him.
I want to make friends in the US, so Scott, I'm not going to be hard on you. Just because Sean says you're a dick. Mate, great shot. You've done a really good job in capturing the drama in the sky and conveying a message with this shot. The color palette, I think, is, for me personally, again, very subjective, maybe just a little bit cold. I would kind of want to warm it up just a little bit. Not too much, but he looks quite red. He looks like one of those old guys that might have drunk too much that's going to be a real red face, you know. So I would just, if you don't want to change the color temperature of the whole frame, just select them and just up the color temperature of them just a little bit, just to bring those skin tones back a little bit. I agree with what Sean said about being very army and very necky and that sort of stuff. But what I would suggest to you, and this is something that in the way that I direct, I say to my couples, so for everyone listening, do we all know what a lazy Susan is? Sean, you know a lazy Susan?
Yeah.
Yep. So round thing in the middle of the table, condiments on it. You spin it around, and the condiments fly off and makes a mess. So I say to my couples, guys, imagine you're standing on a lazy Susan. So imagine you're both standing on that, and I want you to rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on what I want to achieve. So for this photo, yes, it is a bit army, and yes, it is very necky, and also he's tilting her to the side and away from camera as well, which is not always, which doesn't really work so well for this kind of dip sort of pose. So my suggestion would be to say to them, Scott, guys, imagine you're standing on a lazy Susan. I want you to rotate clockwise towards me. So as they rotate clockwise towards you, you're going to stop them when they're at about 45. So when their bodies are about 45 open to you. So what you're going to see is one of his legs, and you're going to see her chest and décolletage and that sort of area. So you're going to see less of him, because he's almost facing the camera. So you want him about 45 and you want her about 45. So you're going to rotate them on the spot until they get to that point, until you sort of see one of his legs. And then you say to him, right, dude, dip her down. But when you dip her, don't go back. I want you to go forward, so to the side and forward towards me. So when they do that, he's going to lean over, and he's going to use his back, and he's going to lean forward a little bit. What that does is it brings their faces closer to the camera, and it makes their faces more in line size-wise with the rest of the body. So if you look at their heads at the moment, their heads look very small compared to the rest of their body. And that's because they've tilted back a bit. So whatever moves away from the camera looks smaller, whatever moves towards it looks bigger. So if you get him to tip her over towards you and off to the side, it doesn't have to be a lot, just so that they don't go back, then you're going to get a much better result. It's going to be less army. You're going to see more of that chest and décolletage. The tops of their heads are going to be tilted over towards you, so you're going to see more of an aesthetically pleasing sort of side profile of the both of them, as opposed to shooting up both their noses. And it's just going to give you a much better result. Like the hand position can stay where it is, because as you rotate them around, you're not seeing as much of the arm, and you're not seeing his hand squishing her back up here, because I know that all those girls love that little bit of squished back bit that comes out the top of the dress. Like, yep. They're going to hate that. So again, through the eyes of a loved one, make sure that she looks as amazing as what she possibly can. And when they lean forward too, that means her arm is going to be off her body. So when you press an arm against the body, it looks bigger. When you take it away, it looks, when you lean forward, let the arm hang, It's not pressed against the body, so it doesn't look as wide. So, mate, change the pose, just adjust that pose. And what I would also do is step back a little bit more, because you're not quite rule of thirds here. And you're not quite in the middle. It's kind of in no man's land in the middle. So if you were to step back and zoom back a bit, or else move your camera frame a bit more to the left, then it's going to put them, in that third sort of area, and it's just going to make the photo a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Absolutely. All those little nuggets of information are things that I coach my couples on as well, especially the leaning towards the camera a little bit when you're shooting wide and from low angle like this. It helps so much. I was actually telling one of my photographers just that the other day. When there are the very unique situations where you are shooting low and up on the couple, helping to minimize that distortion or that weird perspective by having the couple lean their upper bodies towards the camera can help so much. So yeah, nothing really else to touch up on that. But Scott, what a great photo. They're going to love it. One other piece of advice, since you can't obviously go back in time and recreate this scene, I would probably just use the liquify tool a little bit in Photoshop to help get rid of that area where his hand is grabbing her back, just to kind of minimize that little fold or that crease that's being caused by the groom's hand there. So kudos to you, Scott, for submitting that. And I'm just kidding. You're not a dick. We love you. All right. This next photo comes from photographer Kurt Walton. Actually, hold on. I gotta get rid of this. Oh, hold on. Where are our photos? Hold on a second, everyone. I accidentally closed our photos, so
Well, I can see it here, so I'm going to kick off.
okay.
Kurt, awesome job, man. You've captured a really warm and sort of pretty moment between this couple. So, fantastic job, man. Well done. A couple little things to make it a little bit stronger. So, the first thing I'm seeing in the foreground is I think it's like some either napkins or something, looks like wrapped up in some glasses, or there's something here on the right hand side that is kind of a little bit distracting because it's white. And it's white and it's competing with her dress, and so it's a distraction. So I would try and eliminate that first up. You can also, because of your height and because of the angle you're shooting, you can also see knives and forks on the table. So what I would do is I would squat down so that you're shooting up, because when you shoot up, what you're going to have is these lights pretty much directly behind their heads. So you're going to have a nice glow behind both their heads from the lights up the top. And that's just going to sort of illuminate the background a little bit. It may give you a little bit of a glow around them. And it's also going to stop the background being so busy, because I can see that you're at 2.5. And what do you got? 40, ISO 100, 2.5. So if that's a 2.5 lens, I would say you've probably got the option to go down to 1.4 even.
Yeah, he said he was using an 85 1.4.
85. Okay, so you can't zoom, so you can't compress things very well. So, mate, what I would suggest is, squatting down, lower your angle, use those lights behind you, and get rid of the stuff in the foreground. In terms of the pose, I would just bring their chins up just a little bit. So I think she's pretty good, but with the guy, you can kind of bring his chin up a little bit, and I would also turn his body a little bit more towards the camera. So she's facing towards the camera, so she's quite wide, but he is, almost profile. So you see a lot less of him. So I just turn his body towards the camera, get him to lean in, get him to put his arm around her or put his hand on her leg, and then carry on with that shot, and you've got a really nice warm shot. It looks like, are we using flash program manual? Yep. It looks like you got flash right from the front too. So again, if you have the opportunity on a stick off camera above them, we'll just have a nice fall off and make it a more aesthetically pleasing shot.
Yeah, he did use a 36-inch softbox here. However, from what I can see, it looks like the softbox may have been a little bit too far away from them. And the reason I'm saying that is because, well, A, the light's a little flat, but B, you can see the transition of the highlights and the shadows, especially on the groom's face there, and that shadow is pretty sharp, which indicates to me that the flash was a little bit further away, because the further away the light is from your subject, effectively the harsher the light gets. So that to me is telling me that the light may have been positioned a little bit too far away.
Yep.
So,
but great shot.
Yeah, definitely. And I have nothing really else to add to that. I want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Vegemite. Vegemite, the best snack in Australia.
What?
All right, that's it. Okay, next we're moving on to. I just had to throw an Australian joke there.
Did you just have an outburst then, Sean?
Yeah, actually, do you have that? You guys, you have Vegemite there, right? That's a thing in Australia because we don't have that here.
Yeah, it's cool. It tastes good. I like it.
Okay, I've never actually had it, so I want to try some.
Haven't you?
No.
When I come over to the US next year, I'll bring some for you.
All right, bring some to PPI.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. This next photo comes from photographer Gretchen Troop, to be specific. And Gretchen captured this image. It was pitch black on a hike in the mountains at the end of an 8-hour shoot. This was the last shot. It was captured using a 200-watt speedlight with a blue Magbod mag gel pointed at the waterfall and another mag sphere up high towards the couple. Do you want to start or do you want me to start? Actually, you started last time, so I'll start this time. So for starters, I think using let me talk about what I like about this image. I think that using the blue gel on the background, I think that was a smart choice. You know, you're making when you're shooting in a natural scene like this where it's pitch black and you don't really get a lot of detail in the background, you know, there's not really so many ways you can bring and tie in the environment. So putting the blue gel on the water and adding some visual interest and also highlighting the scenery, I think that was a really good call. And I think that's something a little bit more unique that does help us separate us from other photographers. So that's what I like about the image. What I'm struggling with a little bit here is I'm not really sure what is going on. And I think his hand placement's a little awkward. I can see that she's maybe picking up some water, but their facial expressions aren't really matching what's happening. And it's just kind of this, it's almost like there was what happened immediately before this and what happened immediately after this is more important than what's actually happening right here. So I guess my point is I'm a little confused what is going on, and I don't think that really what they're doing doesn't really translate very well into the image. So if this was, for example, like if this was a directed photo, I would have maybe said like, hey, splash water like right in his face and get that moment where the water's hitting his face like in that instant. Because to me, it's just again, I'm losing a little bit of what's happening. Do you feel the same way, Ben, or did you know exactly what was going on the second you saw this image?
Yeah, I could see what was going on. Like he's about to wear a face full of water. That's okay. What's going on. And I agree that the shots of him wearing it and then the reaction to that afterwards would have been the shot. With that said, Gretchen has set up some lighting. She set everything up to be able to catch the moment, whatever that moment was. So Gretchen, well done for the forethought in the blue flash and the blue gel and setting the lighting up to catch the moment. Because if you don't set yourself up, if you don't enter, you'll never win. So you've set yourself up to capture that moment. So well done. For me, I agree with Sean. I think the moment would have been just after this photo, when he wore the water and his reaction to it. But in terms of how you set it up and the forethought that you employed to set it up, well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you would add as far as lighting or anything to that regard?
Color temperature on the couple. I just bring the color temperature up on them a little bit because we all know that blue and orange works really well together. I wouldn't necessarily make them orange, but I'd just make them a little bit warmer just so that there's that contrast between colors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking from experience, lighting moments like this, it can be really challenging because you have to deal a lot with shadows, and it's very, when you're kind of getting these set up candid moments, it's really hard to predict exactly what they're going to do. So in situations like this, I'll actually almost bring my flash a little bit more on axis to the camera. So it's slightly more, so the lighting is just like slightly more flat, but the advantage to that is even if they accidentally, put their hand in front of their face or something, you're still not, you're the amount of shadows that you're going to get is not going to be as, distracting, so to speak. So I don't know if maybe that's what happened here in the next frame. Like maybe she did capture that moment where she threw the water in his face, but because she had her hand in front of her face, maybe it was blocking it or something. We don't really know without seeing the whole series of photos. But not too much more to say other than just I think the moment. I'd like to see more of the moment, so to speak. So.
Yeah, you've done well to create something in pitch black. And when you've got a strong direction of light, and say you're in pitch black, you've got a strong direction of light, and if you've got two people interacting with that one strong direction of light, one person's always going to suffer.
Right.
So it comes down to redirecting that light or putting him in a different situation so that we can limit that suffering from one side.
Definitely. All right, cool. Hey, Gretchen, thank you so much for submitting it.
Great job.
I always love looking at your photos. We're gonna go ahead and move on to this next image from photographer James LaSalle, and let's see what he had to say about this. This was shot from the bride and groom's table. This was captured low with 2 flashes and a Magmod CTO gel paired with a mag sphere. All right, I see one thing I would change off the bat, but I want you to start since I started last time.
Cool. Um, this is one of those in the moment photos that every wedding photographer has to get. Um, you've done an amazing job to hide the guests, to hide what was potentially behind them, with getting down low and shooting up. You've got a really nice emotion on what looks to be the young guy's face. He almost looks like he's ready to cry there. I don't know if that's that, if it's his wife or his mum or who that might be, but you've got a beautiful moment there. And for me, there's not really much that I'm going to pick at this, because you had the ability to catch the moment. You set up the lighting, you put yourself in the game to catch the moment, and you did it. And that's the essence of what we do. So James, awesome job, man, to catch this moment. And I'm sure that if that's the groom's mum, she will treasure that photo and she'll love that photo. So well done, mate. The only thing that potentially we would maybe do in setting up for shooting is just watch the highlight on the side of the groom's face.
Mm-hmm.
That flash is just a little bit hot on him, and I know that's tough because it's probably with a grid on it. It's probably from a long way back because you've got to keep it out of the way, and you're managing a lot of shit going on in a wedding reception. So if you can just manage that highlight on his face, and then just in post, I would just carry some flowers and stuff here through just to get rid of old love's face here on the extreme right-hand side. And mate, well done. You've given that family something beautiful.
Yep, I'm glad you just said that, because that was going to be my one main critique was that woman in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yep.
It's a little creepy because you got because she's out of, I'm assuming it's a she, is out of focus.
Yep.
You have these really dark circles and it looks like she's possessed or something a little bit. And to me, I see that, I'm like, ugh, that's kind of scary. So that would be the only thing I would recommend, is either cropping that out or cloning that out.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Yeah, great framing, great use of low depth of field, or shallow depth of field, so you have that bokeh in the background, reduce those highlights like Ben said, and you got a pretty kick-ass image that this client is absolutely going to love for the rest of their life. So kudos to you, James. All right, moving on. Not too much to say about that photo. This next image comes from photographer Nikki. And Nikki, this was captured during her studio networking day. The model had gold flakes sitting on a ladder after she was done modeling for a set. I asked her what the plan was and asked if I could be the one to shoot it, and she said yes. So we got to play with it, and she really enjoyed it. And that's always so important, is to enjoy what you do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So,
yep.
And before we talk about this image, Amber wanted to let everyone know that Vegemite is a thick, dark brown, salty, savory paste made from brewer's yeast extract, vegetables, and spices. It has a strong, meaty, salty flavor similar to soy sauce or tamari. Good to know. Thank you so much for sharing that valuable information with us, Amber. We are all better people because of it.
Oh,
now, moving on.
I love it. I love Amber. All right.
Yes.
All right, Nikki. Ooh la la. Love this shot. Really well done. It's different. It's engaging. The color palette matches kind of with the vibe of it. It's it's a beautiful shot. So zooming in on it, I think there's one little posing sort of thing that I want to share with you, and one post-production thing I want to share with you that I feel would make this stronger. So posing first, her arm. So what we've done here is we can see a bit of the arm and a little bit of the underarm and stuff here, and we've also cropped it so that you can't see a hand or anything. So how do I explain this? When we crop it off, when you've cropped it there, it looks a little bit weird. Now, it might not stand out to you straight away, but if you stop and actually look at that body part, so if ever you're not sure of where to crop, or you've taken a photo and you think, is this right? Or I want you to stop and look at that body part and look at that area for a good 20 seconds. And if after that 20 seconds, it looks good and you're okay with it, happy days. If not, if after that 20 seconds you go, it kind of looks a little bit weird. Like if at all it starts looking a little bit weird, or it starts kind of looking not quite right, it's not right. So with this arm, we can see the underarm, and you've cut it off up here. What I would suggest is bring that down so that you can actually see the hand. Because as you bring that down, you're going to bend the arm a bit more, and you're going to create a triangle, like a bigger triangle between the arm and the face. What that's also going to do is take away this area of the underarm that you can see, but you want to be careful that you don't crop the shot so that her arm goes out of the shot and then back in. So when you bring the hand down, you would want to crop it so that you can just see the joint of the elbow. So you don't want the elbow to go out of the frame and back in. You want to be able to see just the joint of it. So just the initial part of the joint, so that it's not leaving the frame and coming back. And then we'll be able to keep the hand in. In adjusting that crop, I would love you to adjust it up just a little bit so you can't see this tattoo. Whether that's a rotate or whether it's a crop in just a little bit more, because the beauty of all this gold and softness and that sort of stuff is jolted back to reality by this tattoo down the bottom here. Again, purely solely subjective, but that's kind of how I was feeling with it. So that's the pose and the crop scenario. With the post-production, she's super duper soft, and the sharpest thing on her face is the gold flake on the bridge of her nose. Now, whenever we're photographing someone, you want normally their eye, if the eye is in the shot, you want the eye to be in focus, and especially the eye that's closest to the camera. Now, in this shot, her eye should be the sharpest part of the frame, but it's not, and it's soft with everything else. It's a little bit too soft. So what I would suggest to you is to ensure that your focus point is on that eye, and you're using just a really small single point focus on the eye. If this has been done in post afterwards and softened afterwards, I would potentially go back and rework it so the eye is sharp and this is sharp. The gold flake on the bridge and across her cheek is sharp, but make sure the eye is sharp and in focus.
Yeah.
And potentially the only other thing is the brightness of the gold on her décolletage there. That's
damn it, you didn't give me. I was gonna talk about that. You're not leaving me anything to critique her on there, Ben. You're taking it all away from me.
Nikki, like amazing shot. Just a few little refinements can take it from amazing to wow, incredible.
Yeah, no, that was really good perspective on the arm. I was going to agree with you and say, yeah, bring the hand a little bit closer to her face. I didn't even think about creating more of that triangle though with her elbow and creating that space. So, and that's an extremely good point. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say is, I'd probably just in post-production with some toning, reduce the highlights on that gold right below her collarbone. And then reduce the highlights a little bit on her chin, just so it's a little bit better. The skin tone's a little bit better balanced. But yeah, that's all I have to add. So, Nikki, yeah. I'm really stoked. I'm really stoked that you're submitting these images. The last one you submitted as well last month, I really enjoyed as well. So, keep on keeping. I'm loving your work. So
Well done, Nikki.
yeah.
That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, and if I understand, Nikki, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Nikki's kind of still a newer photographer, but
Yep.
she's just been modeling for a long time, so she has a really good eye for it. But if I'm correct, I think she told me at one point she's pretty new to photography still. So that's she's definitely at a very high level if that is the case.
Yeah,
So
and Nikki, that online program of mine with the lighting and the posing and those modules, if that's where you're at, would be such a game changer for you. So, but yeah, beautiful photo. Well done.
once again, that's the unstoppable photographer, bcphoto.com.
.au.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Karen Dempsey. Karen, this was she was trying to go for a vintage vibe for this
Yep.
high school senior. Did she accomplish it? Only the judges can share that information. And what do the judges say? Well, actually, I'll go this time.
All right.
So let's yeah, just since you're still in my thunder a little bit, Ben, with all of your amazing critiques. Uh, no, but seriously, I to be honest, if you didn't say you're going for a vintage vibe, I probably this is what I recommend. Now that you're saying you're going for vintage vibe, I absolutely see it with the boots. I see it with the dress. It's got that kind of 70s feel. I would probably recommend you light and process the image in a way that matches that. So that's actually the vibe you're going for. It has to be all encompassing, right? So it also has to come with the way you shoot it, with the way you process it. If you didn't say that, I would just look at this image and said, oh, it's a good photo. It's well lit. It's framed fairly nicely. You have the nice depth of field between the subject and the background. Probably just a couple technical things I would recommend. I'm seeing a little bit more, and let me know if you agree with me on this, Ben. I'm seeing a little bit more wall than I would like to. I think it's just kind of a little bit too much. I would like to see it cropped, the image cropped in a little bit tighter, get rid of a little bit of that stone wall, and also bring down the exposure a little bit on that wall, because the challenge you're facing here is it looks like you use a softbox, right? And when you use a softbox, you're going to light a greater area in the frame, which also, means you're going to get a little bit of fall off into the surrounding scene. So you're getting a lot of that fall off directly on that wall, which is in turn bringing up the exposure of that. So bring down those highlights a little bit to make it a little bit less distracting, and bring more, and it'll bring, in effect, bring more attention back onto your subject. I would also like to see a little bit less symmetry between her arms. So you're doing a really good job, where you have her left leg a little bit lower than the right. But she's a little bit kind of a little too tight for me. Like she's like almost like a little bit guarded, and I would like to see her just open up a little bit more. So potentially dropping that left arm a little bit, or even bringing that right arm up. Bringing that right toe back slightly more so we can see more of her boot, and just have her open up a little bit more. I think it's going to be a little bit of a more effective pose and a stronger image that way. But Ben, what else do you have to add?
Yep, agree with a lot of that. Karen, the first thing I thought of when I saw this and I saw her dress and her boots was Heather Graham in, I don't know if it's, I think
Yeah,
it
and
was
Austin Powers.
Powers. Yeah, that's
Yep.
the first thing I thought of. So conveying that sort of 70s kind of look and feel, well done, you did that. I agree with Sean in a couple of things. I'm going to contradict you in a couple of others, mate.
That's okay.
So I agree with the wall. A little bit less wall, absolutely, because if we see a little bit more sort of greenery, and she's more in that more off to the third side of the frame, then that's going to work a lot better, and the wall's a little bit distracting. Now, in terms of posing and a sitting pose like that, one of the posing rules that, well, I guess that I've been taught over the years is that we always bend the leg closest to the camera. Now, in terms of a sitting pose like this, I'll always bend the leg closest to the camera, and I'll almost straighten the one behind.
Gotcha.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, so we bend the leg closer to the camera a little bit more, so that it's almost heel and toe on the ground, and then you can extend the other one out. And what that does is it's a little bit more of a. I know she's a senior, but it's a little bit more of a I don't want to say sexy, but it's a little bit more of an aesthetically pleasing look for a female, with one leg up and the other one extended. But it's always got to be the leg closest to the camera, and then we extend the other one out.
Okay.
That is going to also help you in changing the height of both arms. All right. And potentially what else we could do if you are going to bend the leg close to the camera and straighten the other one is just get her to roll her body over a little bit. So she's not sitting directly on a bum. She's sitting kind of more on one cheek. And what that's going to do is it's going to drop the shoulder closest to the camera, again, giving you a difference in height between the arms, but it's also going to give you more room between your chin and her shoulder when that shoulder's dropped. And that way, then you can drop her chin a little bit, and it gives a little bit more added sort of personality and stuff to her. Now, pose-wise, that would be what I would do with regards to lighting and flash. You can see I've used a softbox because it is kind of nice and soft. What I would do is with that softbox, it looks like it's looking at the image. It looks like it's up and off to the left hand side of the image, coming back down, which is brightening up the area of the rock where she's sitting. What I would potentially do is bring that softbox almost directly above her so that it's almost 90 degrees to the ground. And then just bring it back to you, like tilt it back to you just a little bit so that it's not pointing straight down. It's pointing straight down, but sort of back towards her just a little bit. And it's just going to eliminate all of that sort of light on the stone wall and everything behind her. And it's still going to give you a beautiful quality of light. And it's going to be brighter at the top and fall off towards the bottom, which will make those boots a little bit darker in the frame as well.
Great advice. That's absolutely something you could do that would help with that. And again, you get more of that spotlight effect as well. So, kudos to you. Great job for, what you did with this image. It's seriously really awesome, Karen. So, we won't say anything else, but thank you so much for submitting, and I hope to see more of your images.
Great job, Karen. That's amazing.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We just got a couple more, then we're almost done. This next photo comes from Trisha Lewis. Let me take a quick look.
Trisha, I gather this is probably a senior as well. Love the lighting, the background, the color tones, all that sort of stuff. That's all works really well in the shot. The one thing that is kind of hurting it is her arm. So in terms of body parts, if it can bend, it's generally more aesthetically pleasing if you bend it. Yep. So a straight arm in a photo is always kind of going to look a little bit strange. And it's always going to, it can make a soft photo look stiff. So what I would suggest to you is to turn her body around towards you. Imagine Lazy Susan, turn your body, spin around towards me. Okay. And then you're not going to have that whole straight arm that is basically cutting her blue dress in half. And then what we're going to do is when you turn around towards you, you're going to have one leg closer to the camera. You bend that leg because I can see by the look of this, you've bent the leg that's furthest away from the camera. And so her hip is pushing towards the camera, which is going to make that bigger. Rotate her, bend the leg closer to the camera, push the body away from the light, push the body away from the camera, get it to lean forward a little bit. You can almost probably still go with that pose, that same pose that you've got, but when she turns to you a little bit more, you can just place that hand on her thigh so that there's a slight bend in the arm. And also because the arm isn't cutting the dress directly diagonally in half, it's going to look more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot more to add than what you said. I'll touch up a little bit on I'll address some of the more technical things that are with the image besides the posing. And that is one thing that's kind of bothering me a little bit. I don't know if it bothers you, is, the pattern on her neck, the shadow from the shadow. So
from a
Yeah, so maybe readjusting that flash a little bit so you can get rid of some of those distracting shadows is really going to benefit you, Trisha. Um, and other than that, I think it's just compression. I think it was Facebook compression. I'm seeing a little bit of loss of detail, so I'm assuming it's just that. But um, I'm assuming obviously for final delivered image to a client, you would be a little bit more aware of that. So yeah, really not much more to add. I think just it's technically it's fine. It's well balanced. It just needs a little bit more help on the posing. So
Yeah, and when you turn her body towards you, you can still turn her face towards the flash to create that short side of the face, but you turn it just enough so that the nose doesn't break the line of the cheek, and then you can still get her to look at you. She can still be camera aware in that regard. So
awesome.
you're not changing anything. She's not looking away. You're still getting a shot of her looking at the camera.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. Thanks, Trisha. Appreciate
Well,
you. All right, we're almost done. We got a few more images. This next one is from Lara Wagner. And what an appropriate image now that well, actually, I guess this is a winter Olympic sport, but I was going to say appropriate image due to the Olympics. But yeah, this is
not quite
wrong time of year. I think for me, what I would like to see here a little bit is a little bit more definition, but and a little bit more separation between the subject and the background. So what I would recommend to do that is to add actually a additional light where you're getting a little bit more of a rim light, so you do have a clear separation. Because if you look at the top of the subject's head, you can kind of see where maybe Lara tried to like recover some of the detail, and so as a result, I think it looks like maybe just a little bit of ghosting.
Yeah.
That honestly, that would be probably the only one of the only things I would change about this image, is just to bring up some of just use that rim light to help bring up some detail, maybe bring up a little bit of shadows in the subject, because the subject is getting a little lost in the in that darkness of the background. But I think the choice of lighting actually works pretty dang good here.
Yeah. Lara, well done. This is a great shot. Like, this girl would love this photo. It's, you can see like her eyes are looking through you, and you can see that there's an element of concentration and focus and stuff coming through her just from her eyes. So yeah, like, well done. And I love the fact that the foreground is lit up so that you get that idea of, you can see where you are with regard to the curling and that sort of stuff. I agree with Sean in the fact that it does appear you've darkened down the background, and there's a little bit of ghosting around her hair and stuff like that. If you were to put a flash behind her to backlight her, that's going to really separate her from the background and show the rest of her body without lighting up the background, because obviously she's wearing sort of something dark, so you're not going to get a bounce back of light onto the background. It's going to absorb it. So the backlight behind her, pointing straight at her, really low. I would point it up though. If you have a backlight that is down low, you need to grid it so that it doesn't spread on the floor, because as soon as it spreads on the floor, you've lost the effect. So you kind of want to grid it and point it up just so that it's sort of getting the top half of her. And that'll make all the difference in separating her off the background. But the only other thing might be a little bit of composition, just to move her a little bit to the left-hand side of the frame, just to balance the composition a little bit. I get the curling. I don't know what it's called. The curling thing is right in the middle of the frame. But you can see she's a little bit off, and everything is a little bit weighted to the right-hand side. Personal preference, but amazing job, and you've done a really good job in capturing it. Well done.
It's actually called a broom. It's literally what it's called. So
the big block thing.
No. I thought you were referring to the other thing she's the subject's holding.
Oh no, I mean the block, like they push. Yeah, I don't know what that's called.
Gotcha. the stone. I don't know what it's called either, but
it's not a sport in Australia.
Yeah, no, I did.
But Lara,
Yeah, no, I did
Well,
read somewhere
well,
that there's like one place on Earth where they can mine the rocks for these curling things, and it's pretty incredible.
oh wow,
Yeah, so
wow.
yeah, good job,
Um,
Laura.
yeah, well done, Lara. That's a really cool photo, and I'm sure that she loves it. So yeah, well done.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, second to last image. This comes from a mediocre photographer who goes by Amber.
Shall we skip over this one?
It's
No,
garbage.
no.
There's nothing we can do to make it
My
nice.
I've got my phone here. Like my phone is going to light up. I think as soon as I start talking. Um, so wow. Do you want to go? Sean, you can go first.
Okay. How do you? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I I'm it's very interesting for me to give Amber posing advice because I feel like Amber is such an authority on it and she's so good at it. And so it feels a little bit weird for me to critique her on her posing, but there is something I'm seeing that I do find a little, I don't know, maybe I just wouldn't have chose to do that. And that's the subject's right hand, she's kind of has it like curled and covering her necklace. And I don't know necessarily, and in my mind, she's covering up kind of an important part of her identity of her body. And it's just my point is it's kind of an awkward place for her to be putting her hand, and I don't know if it's very effective. I think what if she wanted to keep her hand there, I think what may have been a little bit more effective of an image or a pose is if she had her actually like playing with her necklace. So there is a purpose for her hand being there. It just seems a little, it doesn't seem super organic to me if you understand what I'm talking about. I'm not really understanding what she's doing here. Maybe you see something I don't. But yeah.
Um, it's it's such a striking photo.
Mm.
Um, just because of the placement of where she is in amongst
That's
all
amazing location. Amazing.
the yellow, and the lighting on it is stunning, and her eyes again kind of look straight through you a little bit. Um, in terms of posing, I kind of agree. Like the hand here, I fight with that. Like the hand across the chest. Um, I fight with that because it's not something that would necessarily be organic and natural.
Right.
And when it's not organic and natural, and it's not something that you would just do while you're standing in the shower or something, then it takes the photo to then a posed, and it looks, then you look at photos and they go, oh, that's been totally posed. And the some of the best photos I've ever seen and that I've ever taken, that I've seen from other photographers, have been photos that are very strategically directed and posed, but they look 100% natural. And it looks like something you would naturally and normally do. So in this regard, the hand there up across the chest, I fight with that. The hand up here, I understand that. I get that. Um, and would it be something that I would do? No. But would it be something that another photographer would do because they've done it 100 times before? It was just naturally what she did in the moment or something like that? Absolutely. For
Mm-hmm.
me, potentially what I would do, because you've got the green and you've got the yellow, and then you've got a symphony of the internal parts of all these yellow flowers that are a very similar color to her hair. Do you see that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you've got this awesome rim light behind her that is highlighting the color in her hair. So potentially what I would maybe do is you could keep her body in that position, maybe just turn her a little bit, but the hand that's up above her head, I would maybe drop that down and place that on her hip, So you've still got a triangle. Like we've got a triangle up here, a triangle
Mm-hmm.
around her head. What I would do is bring that down. I'm going to stand up and bring that to here. So you've got a triangle between the arm and the body, as opposed to the triangle between the arm and the head. So in
Gotcha.
having that triangle like down on looking at the frame on the right hand side, you'll be able to see all of the arm because it's not obstructed by any of the flowers. So you've got room on the right hand side of her, and there's no room on the left hand side of her. So if you brought the arm down, put it on the right hand side, you could get that beautiful triangle in there, and you're not losing anything, and there's no body parts going to be covered by any of the flowers. And then we've got a very clear highlight around her head, around her hair. So then, with one arm down, what do we do with the other hand? Well, instead of that hand being across her chest and therefore pressed against her body a little bit, making the left-hand side of her look a little bit army, what we would do is you'd get her to bend her leg closest to the camera because she's not rotating, she's not changing at all. Bend the leg closer to the camera, push the hip away, which is going to tilt the top half over a little bit. And then you could quite simply get her to do the swish through her hair with that arm. So you've got a triangle here. So you've got a triangle on the bottom, on the lower right side. And then we've got another triangle here on the upper left side as she swishes it through her hair. Or we could do that, or you could get her to put a hand under her hair behind her neck and then bring a hand out and swish the hair out as she still looks at the camera, because with that highlight behind the hair, it's going to showcase the color of that hair as she pulls her arm out. And you're still going to have a triangle there if you get it at the right spot.
That's some great advice. I do the same thing with my hair when I'm posing for photos. I'll just kind of run my hand through my hair. So, yeah.
The only other thing I would do is drop her chin a little bit.
Okay.
Just
Gotcha.
Slightly lower chin. Slightly lowering the chin conveys a little bit more attitude, like just minutely. But I again, it's personal preference, and fashion photography is incredibly different to the standard rules of posing for portraits and for weddings and that sort of stuff, because a lot of fashion stuff is just all out there and anything goes. So in that regard, that could be fine. But
cool.
I think for me, I would probably go a slightly different way, but all in all, it's such a beautifully lit and well done photo, and just adjusting the pose a little bit and adjusting just that little part of it can just make it so much different.
Yeah, it is. It is excellent.
I love you, Amber.
She loves you too. Although she
And
does,
Chuck.
she did say that your shirt looks like two weird misshaped breasts or something like that. I don't know what she said. It's the top of your. She said pointy titties, I think is what she said. The top of your shirt. So,
Right.
But no, Amber, I'm glad you submitted this photo because it was a great topic of discussion, and I think we all learned a lot from it. So I certainly did. So thank you. I'm paraphrasing, Amber. I don't remember exactly what you said. I'm looking at 3 screens. Okay, and last but not least, another field of flower photo. This one comes from Melissa. Oh man, this is a hard word to say. Ratat Zach. We're gonna just say Melissa. So this comes from Melissa. Another field of flowers photo.
Is it Radachak?
Yeah, I think so. Radachak.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Okay. Well, here. I started the last one.
Melissa.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize if we did. But yeah, why don't you close this out, Ben? With this last image. Why don't you start it and let us know what you think?
Love the image. Love you've great job. I gather this is a senior session again. So love the feel of it. Love what you've captured. And I'm sure that she loves it as well. Lighting is really like I'm zoomed right in on her eyes. Eyes look amazing. Skin looks really nice. Uh, you've done like a really good job. So the probably one of the only things that I would sort of look at, or two things: the posing a little bit and her expression. And actually three things, and potentially just dropping down the lighting a little bit, just so, because it's the subject is a little bit bright, a little bit hot, in terms of color, in terms of lighting intensity. So I would just bring that down just a little bit, and maybe sort of take it off to the side just a little bit more to give her a little bit of depth and dimension in where she is in a lighting sense. In regard to posing, she looks a little bit hunched over, and again, it's very army. So I would just say to her, hey, imagine you're sitting on a lazy Susan, just rotate around towards me just a little bit more. And the arm that she's not resting on, like the one that's tucked under, I would just get her to pull that back a little bit. So it's a little bit more kind of triangular. And that arm's not sort of fully crossed across her body. The other hand that she's resting on, I do like how you've got that. It's just when you're resting on a hand, when it's bent, when you're resting like that. So when the hand is bent in that way, it looks a little bit heavy and it looks a little bit masculine. So with a girl, what you want to do is you want to break the wrist. So instead of the hand going that way, oh, hang on, how do I do it? Instead of it going that way, sitting on it that way, we want to go that way. So she's basically sitting. So we've got the lean this way, looks quite masculine. If we swap it and just have it quite gentle, and you can see the thin part of her wrist. So as you've done there, like if you look at her wrist, you can see the thin part of her wrist, which is fantastic. That's what you want to see. What I would do is just break the wrist so that it's not a club look like that, where it's looking like that, where it goes like that instead. So just breaking that wrist, it softens everything, and it gives her the opportunity to lower her chin just a little bit more. Aside from that, beautiful photo. Bring down the lighting a little bit, rotate her around, just adjust that hand a little bit, and yeah. But as it is, beautiful photo. I'm sure she loves it, and the background and the scene that you've got her in is yeah, I love it. Just the green and the purple goes so well. So great job, Melissa. Really, really like it. Well done.
Yeah, excellent job. It's just such an amazing scene, and something like this you don't see really every day. So it's really cool you're able to utilize it. The only other thing I would add to everything you said, which I agree on, I just want to echo. I do think the hand under the chin right there, it just doesn't look very natural. It looks very forced. So I would bend that wrist, maybe even have her hands like right on her chin, kind of like how I'm doing right now, everyone, just very soft and delicate. That would be very beneficial. And then as far as the lighting is concerned, I would actually also recommend, if you had the option, Melissa, to put a grid on your softbox or whatever you use. That way you're minimizing the amount of fall off or spill on all the rest of the scene, to help bring a little bit more attention to your subject, and just so you're not brightening everything in the scene, if that makes sense. So other than that, yeah, Melissa's, again, really cool scene, really cool photo. Thank you so much for sharing. And that actually brings us to the end of our July image critiques. Ben, I want to say thank you for joining me. This is the longest we've actually ever gone. We went 2 hours and 15 minutes, and but it's awesome because you had so much amazing input for everyone. And personally, I'm gonna rewatch this because I try to rewatch all of them, but I'm gonna especially make a point to rewatch this one because I feel like I learned so much from you. So thank you. Really, you're absolutely all the information you shared was super valuable. And before we go, there are a couple a couple announcements I want to make. So for starters, you are doing a workshop before WPPI next year. It's called the Fabulous Four.
Yep.
I am not bitter at all that you guys did not ask me to participate with you, but I still want to show you some love. And it's going to be you, Arno, Amber, and Chris. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
What are you guys going to be teaching?
Um, pretty much everything. Like it's going to be very flash oriented. Obviously, we're going to do it in the Fremont Street area. We've got a whole course sort of profile set up where we're going to go through everything from lighting and posing to utilizing on and off camera flash. Arno and I are actually going to go through post production, and we're going to go through a whole sort of post production of editing a photo and getting the most out of it and that sort of stuff. Amber is going to take us through some of her incredible work that she does with the gels and that sort of stuff. Chris is amazing in his own right in Vegas. Like, he's helping us set up all the locations, and some of the photos that he takes with flash in the Vegas area are just second to none. Like the the fun and the vibrancy that he gets with his couples in those photos is something that is I've been challenged to try and replicate here. So there's such a big variance of skills and abilities from the four of us that are going to combine into 2 days of just like madness of walking away with, lighting skills, posing skills, on and off camera flash, editing, like the whole lot. And we've got so many cool sponsors involved, and I'm really looking forward to it. The people that come along and join us are going to take away so much. And it's really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Unfortunately, I'm going to try to see if I can make it, but I actually have a wedding on the 14th. So my my WPPI trip is going to be very short, unfortunately, this year. But if I can make it, I absolutely will, because four of some of the best educators in the industry in one workshop, that's a no-brainer. So if you guys haven't signed up for it, make sure you sign up for it. Again, it's called the Fabulous Four. I'll make sure I post the link in my group after this. And speaking of workshops, I am also hosting a workshop at the beginning of October here in Colorado. It's called Ethereal. It's a one-day environmental portraiture workshop, and we only have one spot left. It's limited to 8 photographers, and there's only one spot left. It's only $697. So if you're interested, please let me know and claim your spot. And
if
last
I was
but not least, if you were closer,
I would be on that.
Well,
absolutely.
Well, anytime you want to come to the States, let me know. I'll show you a good time, whether it's for a workshop or not. Okay. And then finally, I want to give you the opportunity one more time to just do a quick 60-second pitch for your education platform. It sounds like it's really cool. For those of you who have not or who just tuned in, can you tell them a little bit about the Unstoppable Photographer?
Shit, and go. So Unstoppable Photographer is my online program. It's taken me 4 years of my life to create, and basically it showcases everything and shares everything that I've learned, that I've invested in my education over the last 20 years. I've spent a lot of money on my education over that time, and in this program is everything I know. I'm giving it all away. Like, in this industry, it's important that we share and that we help other people to raise the quality. And this program is my way of doing that. So in this program, there's everything from lighting, posing, composition, exposure, on and off camera flash, creative lighting. There's pricing. We've got post-production workflow. There's album design and sales, which is a massive one. And for me, it's generated probably half of my yearly income has been in album upgrades and sales. So if you're neglecting album upgrades and album sales, you're hurting yourself. So guys, this program, it's been a labor of love, and there is so much in it. And even if you don't think that you need any help, or you think you know it all, I can guarantee you that you don't, and there's something to learn from everyone. Absolutely. And everything that we went through today in these critiques is in this program. Absolutely everything. I haven't spared any detail at all. And there's a 15% off discount code that Sean will post in there.
Yep.
And for you guys in the US, like, everything is in Australian dollars on my website. So when you go there, it's going to be like $5 for you. It's going to be next to nothing. You don't have to get the whole program. You can just pick individual modules if you want to. Like, it's all there, and Sean will post it up there. But
very cool.
I'm so humbled to be here. Thank you, man. I'm I'm so thankful to have been able to reach the people in your audience and share everything. And thank you so much, man. And thank you to
No,
everyone who's stuck here for the 2 hours or so. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you all.
absolutely. It was a long one, and I'm glad y'all stick around. Stick around, and I want to announce the winner of the canvas print from Pro Prints, and that winner, the random winner, is Karen Dempsey. So congratulations. Please reach out to me so I can get you that promo code. Ben, once again, you were amazing. I can't wait to hang out with you again, hopefully at WPPI next year. Good luck on all of your future education platforms and all the endeavors that you do with that. And to all of my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, stay classy, stay sassy, and be dope nasty. Have a good one, guys. Bye.